Hi folks, Matt Easton here. So with Tobias Capwell in the Wallace Collection, we're just looking at a halberd. There we go. So I'll show you some close-up footage of this as well. So the fundamental difference, to my way of thinking, between a halberd and a poleaxe is that poleaxes are made primarily for armoured guys to fight with. They're fairly complex construction, made of various different units, and they're generally about man height or shorter. Halberds are generally for more lightly equipped infantry. Yep. They're longer weapons, therefore, to be used more in units of men with similar polearms. And they've got a simpler construction, what I would call simpler anyway, in that they tend to be made of two parts, a head and a pole. And the head is forge welded all into one piece usually, that being the blade with the point and the rear hook, which is forge welded with the socket, and then going down with languettes. Would you agree with that, Toby? Is that
and in some respects there is a vague relationship in the design and the construction with the knightly poleaxe, but it is simpler and it is used in a different way in a slightly different fighting context. Although, as we said, in the 16th century, the noble fighting class got more interested in what we might think of as more common weapons, but traditionally they have kind of a different fighting context.
And that's maybe due to the fact that armour was slowly sort of passing out of vogue. The nobility or the wealthy classes, the people who were looking at these fencing treatises or commissioning them, weren't necessarily fighting in armour anymore.
And certainly because of the rise of professional trained armies, the nobility who were hiring them and leading them and in some cases fighting with them, felt that they needed to be more literate in these new professional fighting styles. So the Emperor Maximilian, parades dressed as a pikeman on a number of occasions, with his pikemen, not with his knights. And it's a military fashion to now be paying more attention to the professional ways of fighting.
Yeah.
And the halberd probably got caught up in that, but it's sort of a different thing.
So just looking at this specific halberd, the blade is obviously intended for chopping. That's probably your main, well, that and the point are your main offensive bits. The sort of the beak or the beck or the spike, the fluke, whatever you want to call it, at the back, presumably is mostly for maybe penetrating degrees of armour, but also for hooking, for pulling, maybe against horsemen. But I would say that your primary weapons most of the time are going to be your axe blade and the point on the top, probably the point on top. And actually this example has a reinforced point, doesn't it?
Very much so. It's basically a square section at the top, very, very heavy point. I mean, one of the things I'm really struck by, with this sort of lower ranking staff weapons is how effective they are in like the second rank of an army to support the action of the first rank. Because they've got the length, they can strike over and between the front ranks and support fighting going on and striking the front rank of the opponent's forces. And so something like the hook, if they can be hooking or inconveniencing a particular front rank enemy while their front rank is also fighting him, they have a really strong supporting function. And then of course that axe blade can come out of nowhere and cleave a shield in half or God knows what. So they have again a multi-purpose function. And we've also found in some practical experiments specifically related to trying to work out how the Battle of Bosworth played out in 1485 and what might have been the role of the halberdiers under Lord Stanley fighting the exclusively mounted men-at-arms on King Richard's side. How would groups of trained halberdiers approach fighting horsemen? And what are the issues and how does it work? And one of the things that we found is that if you can isolate a knight and get him on his own, and he doesn't have the support of others watching his sides and his back, and if you can also try and somehow limit the action of the horse, then it only takes 2 or 3 halberdiers, as long as you attack from both sides of the horse, to very rapidly disable a man on horseback. You can't really kill a horse very well from the front. But from the side, right under where the rider's leg is, you can get right into all of the horse's vitals, push him over sideways, horse falls on top of rider, and the halberdiers then can do as they like. So, you know, working in small teams, as well as deployed in the second or third ranks of a main formation, they're very effective at multi-purpose things.
It's a very interesting point. I won't go into a huge amount of depth of it now because it's probably worthy of another video about taking horses out. And people seem to have a common perception that if you sort of stab a horse, it's out of the game. Not the case at all. There are many accounts from across history of horses being wounded numerous times and still carrying on. Even in the 19th century, being shot several times and still being used, and certainly bayoneted several times and still running around. They might not be so easy to control, but they're not always that easy to control when they haven't been stabbed.
It's an issue no matter what.
But so going back to the halberd, so it's a very formidable weapon, partly of course because of its length and leverage. It's not a particularly heavy weapon. It weighs probably even less than a poleaxe on average. So I think with poleaxes we're looking at weights of about 5 to 8 pounds total. I'm not sure what that is in kilograms, but whereas halberds, I think, tend to be more around the sort of 5 and 6 pounds range, don't they? They tend not to be very heavy, but of course all of the weight is concentrated on the far end.
And the staff is longer.
Yeah, so you don't want a weapon that's too cumbersome and unwieldy. The power is coming mostly from the leverage, the length of the shaft. And of course, ultimately, it is a spear. If you're using them in formation and you're fighting with an opponent, an enemy ranks, or you're fighting against horses or whatever, the pointy end at the top is probably your most important bit. Everything else is extra. Talking about that pointy bit, the fact that this one is reinforced, you won't be able to see it very clearly on the camera, but it is pretty much square, isn't it? So if we sawed through that blade and you looked at the top of it, it is really like diamond section, square section. And that very clearly is for penetration. There's only one real reason to make a point like that, and that's so it's reinforced and can go through resisted materials and not break and not bend. And we see similar things, of course, on Indian Qatar daggers, and we also see on all sorts of other polearms. You'll see, if I just tilt the camera up, there we go, you'll see behind the halberd is a large bill of a probably Italian style. I would say, yeah. Does that sound right? It looks like an Italian bill to me, but the point of that bill is also reinforced and square. It's not as thick as the halberd one, but it is nevertheless a reinforced point, and that's very common on pole weapons of the 14th, 15th, 16th centuries, the time when people were wearing quite a lot of kit on their bodies, be it padded or mail or plate. So even if you're not stabbing into the plate, you may incidentally hit it, and what you don't want to do is try and stab someone in the armpit, they twist a bit, you hit them in the breastplate, and your point gets bent. So don't necessarily always think about penetrating armour. It might just be making the point more robust so that if it incidentally comes into contact with armour, it doesn't break or bend, because then you've got a useless point. But yeah, so and you mentioned something to me about the dating of this halberd.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing actually. It comes back to this question of the effectiveness of particular designs and how long they remain in service and how do you date them. This is in form, this type of halberd on the end here, you could perfectly well expect it to be present on 15th century battlefields in the hands of Swiss halberdiers fighting the Burgundians in the second half of the 15th century. But we know for a fact that this particular one is part of a series that were made in the 17th century. It's a well-documented set made by a particular maker. So it's a 17th century weapon being made to a precise 15th century pattern. And it just shows how long-lived, essentially, late medieval weapons can be, well into the age of modern armies and firearms.
I mean, I had no idea about that until you told me, and I was very surprised, because I would just look at that halberd and think, end of the 15th century, beginning of the 16th century, because it just looks like that. You know, you can see them in manuscripts of exactly that shape, even with the little cross cut out in the blade, which seems to be a traditional thing. So just there, I hope you can just see on the camera, there's actually a cross cut through the blade. Very common for some reason on halberds. But yeah, so it just goes to show you think 17th century halberd and you usually think of something with an incurved crescent blade or this type of, these iconic, when people think about the English Civil War, they think of certain types of halberds often carried by sergeants, I think, at that time. But this is completely different to that. This is the old style, the old school kind of cleaver type. So a very interesting weapon on a number of counts, but very different to a poleaxe. So thanks, Toby.
Okay.
Cheers.
Yep. Bye.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and feel free to follow us on Facebook.